So I spoke to Zoe afterwards about it, and I think people were disagreeing based on opinion rather than the data which Zoe had. And I think those opinions are probably driven from their own experience. Like me when I was young and coming through my early steps of my career, I think people wanted different things in those days, and there were different ambitions. So what I was told to do was to get fast promotions, put in a lot of hours, show a lot of dedication, presenteeism, don't leave before the managing director leaves. All that stuff, was from a kind of a sort of a more macho culture, I guess, in the workplace. If I reflect on that and say, well, those are the things, did I want those things, and also did other people want them at the time? Certainly it's true that people don't want them now. So I think the whole thing has moved on, and it's important that we shift our expectations of what people want on the data today rather than how we felt when we were at their age.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult because you have preconceptions, don't you, of this is how my career started, and this is how I was when I was that age. But if that's all you look at, then nothing ever changes, does it? You end up in a continual cycle of nothing changing.
And I guess, there are people out there who do want quick promotion. They do want advancement. They do want the salary increases. Undoubtedly, those people exist. But that's not the majority any longer.
I think as well, even the people that still have that, because there's still very much, ambition within the sector. People do still want to progress. People do still want to improve, both sort of professionally and personally within the sector. But those people also want flexibility. It's not one or the other necessarily. It's they want the flexibility too. And sometimes having that flexibility and, the enhanced holiday so that they can take a rest and come back refreshed instead of burning out will help them achieve the career growth that they do want. So it kind of couples up. And I think if you look at, what people have got right now, which, like I say, is pension, paid memberships, paid training. If I think back to when I first joined the sector 8-9 years ago, it wasn't always a given that a company would pay for someone to go through the IRPM or pay for them, their annual membership. So I think at the time that was certainly top of the priority list because people did want professional growth and couldn't necessarily afford it themselves. Fast forward, like I say now, 8-9 years, it's very rare that a company won't support someone through the IRPM financially, or, and so because that's now more of a given, what people actually want as a benefit has now changed or sort of gone with the times, but what companies are offering hasn't, grown with it essentially. So it's not that the benefits have become less valuable. It's just that those that were being offered a while back, like a good few years back, are just now more of a given.
Yeah, absolutely. I always remember. I mean, I'm a bit older. I always remember my first job. Now I'm 52, nearly 53, and I always remember my first job. And I've always been in tech, and I had to drive from Glasgow to Wales to Cardiff to do a job, and it was over a weekend because they were going to have some downtime, and so I wasn't being paid for it. So I was traveling in my own time in the evening, doing 2 days' work, and I said to my boss, "What's my allowance for dinner?" He said, "Oh, I'm not paying for your dinner." And I said, "I'm sorry? So I'm not being paid for this weekend and you're not going to pay for my dinner?" And he said, "Oh, no, definitely not." I said, "Well, you can go yourself then." So, and that, I mean, okay, that was 30 years ago. 32 years ago. But that's what people thought. So actually, bosses and benefits have been dragged into where we are now. And, and these things should not be a given. I mean, I don't know how we fare comparison-wise. One of the things we do offer is you can buy holiday. So we have a number of people who take an extra 5 days holiday and reduce their salary throughout the year. And we do enhance. I don't know what we give. To be fair, it must be about 23 to 25, I think is where. But then, you also, people get after 2 years, I think they get an extra day holiday, and that you can do that up to after 7, you get an extra 5. So, you know, listening to what you're saying, I don't, you know, I don't think as a business, I think we could certainly do better, but it sounds like there's a lot worse out there.
Yeah.
So how do you influence this to change? Or do you just keep beating the drum, and when people start losing staff to the people who are doing this, that's when they change?
It's a very good question. One that perhaps I don't necessarily know the answer to, because if I did, it would make my job a hell of a lot easier. I think there's just still so much that employers need to maybe just be more open-minded to. There's certainly a lot of times that I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall, because I feel like as a sector, recruitment is such a pain point. It's a huge headache for so many people. We're constantly talking about the war on talent and how difficult it is to recruit and how much longer the recruitment process is becoming. And it's very simple, small things that a company could do to make that better for themselves that they're not quite willing to do. And it's certainly something that we're always trying to explore as a company. We're always sat there thinking, why? No, why is it? What could possibly stop these people from offering flexible working? Yeah. Because in actual fact, the benefits that people want won't cost the company anything, and could actually help save them money, because, you know, there's companies in the sector that have moved to full home working or flexible working and operate on a hot desk policy, and therefore haven't needed to get a bigger office, or they've been able to downsize, hence saving them money. So, as well as obviously money in terms of the bigger picture of not needing to re-recruit staff or, you know, spend thousands on trying to retain people. It's pretty easy stuff. Some may argue that point, but to me, it seems that way in terms of flexible working, because it was easy for us as a business. But certainly we're still banging the drum. Certainly there are companies out there that are willing to change and are willing to listen. There's still quite a lot that aren't. And it would be really interesting actually to just hear as to why, because at the moment it's sort of a mind read situation. We're constantly guessing because nobody can really give sort of a valid answer.